Hi there, and welcome to my shed, which is where I do some crafty bits. I do other crafty bits inside. Uh, Here we have a station where I occasionally, rarely nowadays, do some woodwork. I've built a bed and things like that. Here's where some basing is going to happen today, and that's what I'm going to be talking about. And there's other tools and things and a pretty rubbish air gun that I've used. Air gun, air dry brushy, whatever, airbrush. That's it. So today's video is going to be a bit of a tutorial as to how to rebase some models. I've got my tea. Oh, lovely. And I've got my soup. And I've started doing a few of them and sort of testing them a bit. I've got some so these are my Seraphon, right? So this is what they look like before. They're like on a base. I've put them on some cork on the base, and then what I've done is I've made my own like basing compound with like bits of this particular color was actually a color that was a mix of a couple of colors that I was painting my walls with. So it's just normal, like everyday emulsion style paint. So anyway, and then there's a bit of lichen and some. This one's a decentish example, and then there's some like aquarium plants on there that I'm having second thoughts about. So what I've been tending to do is look at the direction it's facing, and then chop off a bit extra in the direction it's facing, so you get like a kind of a flat edge, and then just sort of work your way round the base like this, and that should underneath the cork, because what I am then going to do is chop that bit off there, chop that bit off there. What I am then going to do is, let's try and get this camera a bit closer to the action so you can see what's going on. So there you go. So there we've got the guy still on his base. We've kept the integrity of most of it. Just check the bottom for like any lumpy bits that you can just scrape off with it. The side of this is like the edge remover, so you can just like scrape it off with that. Then here I have a base. I have plastic glue, big dollop in the middle. Line the front of it with the front of this, like that, and then put it over here in my unit. So that's that for now. So I'm just going to very quickly, don't like that like, oh no, it was covering up some brown. Oh, that's annoying. I tell you what, I'll just take that one off. And I'm going to orient it to this direction because it's easier to get a flat edge. The reason I want a flat edge at the front is because if you just chop off the rim, so I tried being like really neat and just chopping off the rim like this. This isn't very neat, but if that's all you do, so you're left with like a better circle, they actually don't fit. They're actually slightly too big. So actually that does, because I've chopped a huge chunk off the other side. But if that's all the way round, then it just overlaps. In fact, this one does slightly, because I don't know whether you can see very well, but if you look like there, you can see it overlaps a little bit, and that's me shoving the circular bit like right to the edge. You see there's a little overlap there. So, you know, you do need to be pretty prejudicial when it comes to lopping bits off of these BSs. Right. And as you can see, I've made a bit of a mess with this one, but oh well, that'll have to do. I can fix that later with a paint brush. So that's going to go on my unit of them where they've fallen off the base. This one's a spear. So actually with a spear model where they're sort of pointing it forwards, because I did these in AOS, I've not actually made them to rank up. If I'd have made them to rank up, I'd have probably, or in fact almost certainly, gone for that kind of pose. So if you see like the point of the spear is just over the top of the model in front, or pointing upright like that. Whereas in AOS, you could point them like through each other. So, you know, you could get them essentially have the front rank like that, and you could get them all ranked up nicely like that. So it looked a bit more. So actually, with this unit, I did have it so the whole thing kind of ranked up quite nicely like that. But because like ranking up in AOS, you ended up with that kind of like triangular kind of formation, not like directly behind each other. So because it's a spear and it's pointing forwards, actually this one wants to be towards the back of the base. So I'm going to square it up at the back. And again, you just need to be pretty prejudicial when it comes to stuff like this, where you've got like a little bit of cork showing through. I mean, we're going to fix that, like with paint in a sec. So don't worry about that. These little bits of lichen around the edge, I'm just going to pull them off because they're not very good, like in terms of longevity. I mean, they look all right, but you really don't want that much on a base, really. So here we have a base, squudge, and then we'll line up this. Oh, there's a bit on that. We'll line this up with the back, and that looks okay for now. Oh, for God's sakes! Bloody thing! Right, that's that. Oh, it just won't stick. The glue sticky. This glue isn't very sticky. Sticky. Come on, work. Right, this one's fine. Just have a quick look at the base. I think let's square it up at the front and the back a little bit. It's quite difficult, this one, because I've put a lot of cork on this base. So, you know, it goes around quite a bit. I might have to square it up at the side a little bit here as well. But, you know, I'm just doing this because I don't want to take the models off and totally because the basing scheme is fine and the paint scheme is fine. So these were for Seraphon, and Seraphon, you know, as you can probably tell with my armies, I tend to do the basing first and then put the army on it. So I do a basing scheme that I quite like the look of, and then paint the models later. So all of these, like I made all of the bases, and then I thought that looks like a really dark, dingy jungle kind of theme. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint them up like they're from the realm of Ulgu. So everything's like really dark and muted, and you know they've got black eyes, and you know the only thing that's bright about them is you see the little bits of turquoise. So that's supposed to sort of represent a kind of bioluminescence. So there's like little spots down their spines, and sometimes they've got a bit on, you know, on the. But other than that, it's a very muted color scheme. So lots of dry brush. The other thing was it was supposed to. This is a musician, so this is going to go at the front of the unit. So actually, I do want to be pretty prejudicial in terms of chopping off the front, because it doesn't really matter how much the model overlaps at the front. Because then what I can do is I can get some of the Spearsaurus who are a bit more pokey behind to the other. Oh dear. The other issue that I'm having is that these clippers are very old and a bit rubbish. There we go. So there we go. Right, I'll try and put some music on in a bit. The problem with music on YouTube, as I'm sure you're aware, is licensing. Because, you know, what's this? This is a normal standard one. Now, when I glued these together originally, the army looked pretty good, but over the years they've like fallen off bases, and because they're only super glued on, and super gluing like a plastic model onto paint doesn't get a very good bind. And also, like these old Saurus models, you know, they're not great in terms of how much foot space you get with them. Squidge on that base there. These bases I got off eBay. They were like, I think I showed them to somebody else I know, and they said that they're probably 3D printed because they've got the lines on the bottom. I mean, I don't know. They feel like proper plastic. I don't know whether you can 3D print I mean, presumably you can, but like plastic glue sticks them together absolutely perfectly. So like, in fact, weirdly, the bind with this plastic is better than GW's plastic, I find. So, like for instance, my Chaos Knights that I did, like the contact point of the old Chaos Knights with the base is actually there's not a lot of contact, so there's not a lot of space to glue it on. But like with the Knights, like absolutely went. Oh, that was falling off. Bloody thing. Yeah, so with the Chaos Knights, it was absolutely fine. So, in fact, it was better than I remember. So I remember having to hold them for bloody ages to get them to stick. Whereas with these bases, they seem to be a bit better. That one, I'm going to create a third pile where the bind with the base isn't particularly brilliant. Because at the moment, what I've got is a unit and a pile of bases where they've fallen off. I've also got a pile of shields that have fallen off as well. So, yeah, it's definitely a bit of a work in progress. This one, see if you look at it, like this one's quite towards the front, so its shield is going to stick out quite a bit. So I actually want to try and square it off at the back a little bit, which is going to be difficult because there's a bit of cork there. So if I also want it to like come over to the left a little bit as well. I suppose that's the other thing that you got to be fairly considerate of when you're ranking models up again. It's really weird, like going back to square bases, like because it's a totally different mindset. Well, not totally, obviously. You're still making models. That's me embellishing. But yeah, it's very different in terms of like what your thought process. Ow! Just trapped my finger. From what your thought processes are when modelling. Modelling models, not modelling. Never done any actual modelling. I did think about it for a bit. Like, I'd make a good plus size model, I think. Like, dear Giacomo, I'm a middle-aged man with a body and a face of a middle-aged man. Do you want? Idiot. Right. yeah, so hopefully everybody's managed to get some games in now. I got a game in at the weekend against a guy called Ian and a guy called Dave, who I'm going to be recording some games soon, and I think they might be okay with that. So you might see their faces and hear their voices at some stage to spread the love of square bases. Because I am planning to do some battle reports at some point. I want to get some interesting armies though, some armies with like a fairly interesting makeup. So, because the thing that I find about like going on the channels that you watch and looking at their battle reports, they tend to just have like cookie cutter style armies, and they tend to have stuff that you just think is, well, that's a bit kind of, you know, oh look, your Bretonian list has all the things that you'd expect in a Bretonian list. Whereas like, where do I want that one to go? That one's difficult actually, like probably perfectly in the middle. Yeah, I want to get like, so like my Bretonian army, I don't know what I'm going to do with it though. Like I want to do something interesting. I quite like the exiles. Like I think they're cool. I mean, I'm a long way off like buying anything new because I've got to rebase everything first. So, you know, because I've got a load of ogres to do. I've got the monsters out of this lot to do, and I'll put them in another video actually because interestingly, like these bases are just slightly bigger than, but the monster bases are like, oh god, are like, oh come on you, are like significantly larger than the bases they're going to go on. So like, it's a bit of a logistical challenge actually working out how I'm going to get them to fit. Like these are okay actually. You know, they're most of the models I've put relatively central, and they are like the old models, so they fit quite nicely and they rank up okay because they're designed to rank up. Whereas like a lot of stuff in AOS looks cool but is not designed to rank up. So actually, like, comment down below. Do you like the square base sizes? The fact that they're slightly bigger or not? Personally, I think it's great. It just gives you a bit more real estate to work with in terms of, you know, putting models onto bases, so it gives you a bit more space. And also for those people who have got stuff from AOS that they want to, like myself, who wants to bring that across to fantasy and put on these square bases, you know, it's really helpful. Whereas, oh bugger, nearly stabbed myself then. That was nearly a video that couldn't be published because it's got blood in it. Can you actually publish videos with blood in on YouTube? I don't know. I mean, I suppose if I chop my finger off, like, they'd probably take offence of that. But YouTube's a bit weird. The funny thing is, like, copyright-wise, I know other YouTubers have talked about that. Like, if I've got background music on a video, it'll tell me I've got background music, but there's no copyright issue with it. So it's identified the music. It's quite clever. It identifies the music as you're kind of publishing it, and then it's like, it's pretty good. I quite like YouTube. If you've never run a YouTube channel before, the back office stuff and the research and everything they give you is great. Like, for instance, it's telling me essentially I need to do a vampire count battle report. It's telling me that should be my next video, and I'm like, okay. The thing is, like, my soul blight, I quite like as the soul blight, so I don't know what to do with. I don't know what to do with the bases, because all of those bases are like, I put a lot of time and effort into my soul blight bases because they're all like spirity kind of, you know, like, yeah, it just looks like ghosts emerging from the ground or spirit, like ectoplasmic sort of stuff. So I've put a lot of time and effort into those bases, so I'll probably get some base converters. But anyway, that, you know, my vampire list will probably be the first one I use. What the heck is happening there? How weird is that? How is it done that? Oh, I bet that's stuck to the nozzle. And then, sorry, I'm just looking at this great content. Dan looks at dried glue and tries to work out how it dried like that on the bottle. Again, comment down below. Do any of you do weird stuff like that, where you look at glue and think, how did that dry like that? And try and work it out. So this bit is nearly done. Just got a few more. I'm just keeping an eye on the time because I can't remember. I remember reading somewhere that videos need to be about an hour long or something in order for the algorithm to like you. An hour and a half is a bit too long, apparently. So an hour is like the perfect length for any video on YouTube, apparently. According to something that I've read once, maybe, that I can't remember where it is. So this is all ridiculously reliable information, obviously. You know, obviously... properly like academic style references, you know. Chisholm Vorholm, 2017 said, yeah, these are the bases. This is how they came, just in a bag. I mean, bases always come in a bag, Dan. That's a stupid thing to say. How many have I got left? I've got 8, 12, 14 to do. So here I have 5, 9. So I need another 4. Oh, I'm nearly out. So that's it. That's all I need. I only need these for the Seraphon, don't I? What else do I need to rebase on them? So yeah, so I wasn't going to rebase the Soul Blight because I'll just get like those unit converter things and just slot them into that. So I think that'll be much better. But anyway, like my Soul Blight list, it's a bit weird because I painted it with an Old World paint scheme because it's like Neferata. So I got that list when Neferata was rubbish. So Nef's pretty good nowadays, but like a few editions ago, Neferata was like the worst of the Mortarks. So, you know, but I like Neferata. I think, you know, she's the first vampire in the lore. She, yeah, so I've got this kind of Neferata style list. So I painted it. So Neferata had 2 kingdoms. She had like a kingdom in uh Kemri. Why did it take me so long to remember that? Age, I suppose. Yeah, so she had a kingdom in Kemri where the color scheme was like a dark teal, and it was, you know, a pretty stereotypical Kemri sort of. Was it dark teal? And then she had, I can't remember which way around it was. And then she had another kingdom in the like a bit further north. I think somewhere in the Border Princes, like Tilia or something, where she had another fortress and like raised her vampiric forces there. And that color scheme was like a brown, I want to say, like a sort of mustardy sort of color. So what I did was I painted. I think this is the way around I did it. I can't remember exactly, and I haven't got them in front of me. But I think I painted the skeleton warriors and like the peasantry of the skeleton list as like from one of them, like maybe Kemri, and then the knights I painted like in the other sort of style. So it's like she's gone and, you know, turned a load of this whole fort's knights, and, you know, then brought her skeletons across. And because it's in, you know, Sigmar, it's kind of oh I'm trying a new tea as well. This one's... My wife got me a load for Christmas. This one's Earl Grey with blue flowers. I have to say, it's not very good. I mean, I know I've got a cold at the moment, but it doesn't really taste of anything. In fact, the thing that I can taste is the oat milk, really, more than anything. Now, that one, you see, is towards the front of the base. So I want to level it up at the back to get it to... Oh, pardon me. Dear me. To get it to sit better on a square base. So yeah, so anyway, so that's my vampire count list. So in it there is I've got a load of zombies, I've got a corpse coach thing, I've got a necromancer, I've got like 60 skeletons all painted, and they look, if I do say so myself, because I did it, they look epic. They look really, really good. Like, you know, I've actually painted them pretty well. Which I went through a period of like just buying, like I went a year where I bought like, I added it up at the end of the year. I did that thing where you go on your bank statement and search Warhammer and then added up everything I'd spent. And I'd spent something like $8,000 in a year on Warhammer. Was it that much? I don't think it was that much actually, but it was a lot of money. I just had a bit of a splurge, and I'd ended up at the end of this year with like four. So I got a Seraphon list, I got the Soul Blight, I got the Ogres, I got the Demons of Khorne, I got the I got a Slanesh list, I got a Nurgle list, although that's my daughter's. I got I finished off the Slaves Darkness Everchosen list. Yeah, so I ended up with like 7 2,000 point AOS lists at the end. Because I mean, what I did was I thought, you know, because the first time round, if you're not aware, I gave up hobbying for like several years, from about 7th edition of Warhammer. Nothing to do with the game actually, or the system, or anything like that. It was more like life got in the way, and well, I mean, life and family, and I was kind of bullied into it a bit by my parents, you know, being a grown-ass adult, you know. They kind of have never approved of this, so my business wasn't going very well, and they kind of convinced me that it was because I was spending too much time doing Warhammer, and that turned out not to be true. But business wasn't going very well because I was young and, you know, dumb and full of vim. And it wasn't making bad decisions. It was just, you know, I was just the wrong age really to be doing what I was doing. And, you know, everything was going okay, but, you know, not as well as it could have been, or not as well as I was hoping it was going to go. And I didn't realise quite how the thing, because, you know, I was a financial advisor. That's financial services is my field, basically. So, and I started out when I was like in my early 20s and went self-employed rather than going to work for somebody else, which was, you know, 24-year-old self-employed lad comes up to you and says, give us all your money, I'll invest it for you. You know, that's a bit of a tall order. I mean, some people did. Some people were, you know, had faith in me and believed in me, and, you know, they're all still clients. And I'm eternally grateful to those people for believing in me in the first instance. You know, but yeah, so anyway, what was I talking about? I came back, I can't remember. This is a proper stream of consciousness video, isn't it? I should have really like done an agenda and stuck it to the wall so I remembered what I was supposed to be talking about. Yeah. So anyway, lists. So I've got the Soul Blight list that I've got to get some conversion trays for, and then after that, I'm probably now need to get the angle right. So with spears, right, a little tip: look at like the edge of the base and look at where the model in front might be. So I'll just use that as an example so you can see it. So the model in front might be where the tree is. So if with the model that you're putting on the base, you point it sort of slightly towards the corner like that. So if you imagine, like, if there's a model in front, this one's probably not going to overlap it, but you want it to be just over like that, just a slight angle, so that when you rank it up, it's not poking the guy in front or gal. I suppose Saurus would probably all be female, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, feminist utopia. That's what it looks like. Sorry, that was uncalled for. And just before anybody gets like, I'm not political at all. Well, okay, that's not true. I am political. However, I don't have like a side. I don't. I'm philosophically, I'm a pragmatist. So like, I care about what works and what's effective. I'm not really bothered about does it fit in with my ideological, because I don't have an ideology. It has taken me the best part of 40 years of my life to work out that this is the case, that I really don't have strong views on anything. All I want is a world that works and that people can get on with their lives and they're relatively happy and unmolested by big corporations and all that kind of stuff. So like stuff like left, right, feminists, alt-right, wokey, all that. Don't care. Like, couldn't care less about any of that. That's all an ideology that, and the other thing about us pragmatists is like, you can go and do that if you want. And, equally, I don't really, I also don't really mind that. Like, you can believe what you want to believe. Like, that's, there are some streams of thought that I think are pretty potentially quite destructive. On both sides, I think any kind of extreme whatever is a bit of a problem. So any far, insert orientation here is potentially problematic for society. But anyway, that's not Warhammer. Let's talk about Warhammer. Well, and I suppose the reason I'm talking about that is because Warhammer is a bit political. Like, and I think a lot of people get their real world politics confused with the sort of the hobby politics, because there is politics in the hobby, but it's proper, like, old fashioned politics, as it were. It's the politics of court intrigue and all that kind of stuff. It's not the real world politics of basically gaslighting your people into believing what you want them to believe. That's real world politics. Is largely gaslighting and just lying nowadays, just to make yourself look better, or or overstating things or whatever. Like, whereas this type of politics is more like deal making. Like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And I think that's why that's why people get confused, because people want to sort of see. There seems to be this thing in like popular media nowadays about wanting to reflect the real world in the fantasy world, and I'm like, no, I want lizardmen. They're cool. Look at them. Look at that. Look at that. It's a lizard thing going, and it's got a weird shield that presumably came from another. So it's got the skin of another lizard as a shield, and it's got this massive like Mayan, like totally cultural appropriation, non-PC club thing, and it's covered in gold, and it's just great. But it doesn't matter whether it's PC or not, because it's not in the real world. It's not a real world thing. Like, all of it is pretty horrifying. Like, all of Warhammer is pretty, if you actually think about it for any length of time, it's all pretty horrid. Like, so don't think about it. Like, because it doesn't matter. Like, just because your hobby is set in a horrible universe, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't make any difference. Like, nothing happens because of that, you know? You don't get arrested for. So, and I think that's why people get so excited about stuff like female space marines or whatever, because it's like, you know, I mean, I don't care. I mean, they can be female if they like one, or not. Like, you know, do what you like. If you want to model female space marines and write like a little bit of lore as to why this one in particular, then, you know, go for it. Like, maybe they're recruited from a world where, you know, the guys have been pretty much wiped out, and, you know, they're forced to convert, you know, women because, you know, they're trapped in behind a warp storm and there's no blokes. Like, there's been a virus or something that affects, you know, people with my chromosome and blah 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 blah. You know, you can make up whatever you like, really. Like, it doesn't matter. You know, so if you want a reason, or you could just say that, you know, this particular chapter master likes ladies, so, you know, he decided to, you know, or he doesn't like girls and he hates girls, so that's why he does this to them. Because you think about it, like, if you actually sit and think about what becoming a space marine actually looks like, it's pretty horrendous, right? It's like the whole process, and you think that must be even worse for women because, like, a space marine don't need ovaries or any of that. So hysterectomy, you know, here we come. You know, the whole thing is horrendous. Like, there's no good guy in the 40k universe, right? So, like, when people try and interject their own politics onto something like that, it's just, I don't get it. You you don't want 40k to happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, I can't remember who said it. It's a fairly famous writer, but I can't. That was coming off. I can't remember who said it, but like, fantasy is something that definitely didn't happen, but you'd probably quite like it to. So that's like your fantasy. Whereas science fiction is something that you could see happening, but you definitely don't want it to, right? So 40k is almost certainly 100% science fiction. Fantasy, the reason that magic and stuff is like in fantasy, because I think everybody would like to be able to do magic. Do you know what I mean? Like, it would be so helpful. But lots of stuff. There's that Arthur Lee song, you know, I believe in my magic. Why? Because it is so quick. Um, so I think everybody wants to be magical, don't they? But, you know, so that's why magic. Oh, bugger. That's why that's why magic and fantasy kind of stick together. But yeah, like, you know, politics you don't need to. I mean, again, like, I don't do this because, you know, I don't. But you don't need to get excited about any of this. It's a hobby. It's a fantasy. You know, it is what you want it to be, right? So, you know, put your own stamp on it. Do what you like with it. Like, if you want all the Seraphon to be women dinos, then that's exactly what they are. That's my soup. I do. I don't know if I said. I probably said in another video, but I do strongman. So I have this stuff, which is a cup of soup. It has 40 grams of bone broth protein in. Bone broth, because bone broth's got collagen, quite a lot in, which is really good for your skin and other things. And sorry, I keep kicking that thing. And I've started on this stuff called HMB, which is like something to do with protein synthesis. So hopefully it should increase the bioavailability of protein in my muscles, so they should grow more quickly. But I'm trying it for a month, and if I see some decent gains, then that's good. If I don't, then I'll stop, because it's not cheap. I mean, I say that it's not expensive either, really. Right, let's fix this one. Actually, I'm going to take you off. Oh no, I'm not actually. You're quite stuck there. Oh god, the super glue is quite active. Right, so let's ram you in a bit better then, and not stick my fingers together. Right, so I'm going to glue them on probably later. I mean, maybe if I've got I forgot my thing. I've got a mixie thing inside, like one of those like little vibratory things that you for science. Right, so let's find a little one, because that one's going to be quite hard. Right, here we go. Actually, have we got one where... Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be doing all of them at some point, aren't I? Right, so I've got this Citadel medium texture tool. It's okay. I mean, Citadel tools are all okay. So what I'm going to do with this brown stuff is just like pile it up. So it kind of... Is this bottle nearly out? I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. So it kind of gives the impression that like we're in a swamp almost. So let's like muddy that up and put the lichen in there. There we go. Because this is like the natural world, so we want it to be... Oh my god, it's really difficult to see in these things actually. Quite dark in there. Oh, come on. I mean, like I said, these tools are okay. I'm using it because, I mean, I should probably just go inside and get a butter knife, to be honest. But, yeah, so they're okay. And then we're just going to fill it in. Just go around the sides and fill this in like so. And then what I'm going to do later, so then we use this edge to like scrape it like that. Nice. So then that's one based, and it kind of makes it look like it's kind of, we're a bit swampy and a bit green at the same time. So there's your nearly finished project. So I just need to wait for that to dry and then see what that looks like, really. What I might do is go over the whole green base with there's a contrast paint, isn't there, called something like something with a swamp, whatever. All right. So let's take this bloody lid off. Useless things. People are like, oh, the GW pots are really good. In fact, I've only ever had one person who didn't work for... Is that coming off? No. Yeah, I've only had one person ever who doesn't work for GW tell me that the that the GW paint pots are good. And then I found out that they'd never used anything else. So like... It's bloody cold. Right. Oh, I've got too much for that one. This one is not going so well. Oof. Come on. go in there, right, and then we just need a little bit around here to cover up that monstrosity. And then I said cover up that monstrosity, not everything but the monstrosity. There we go. And then there we go. Let's just clean it off, make sure we've not got any gaps like that one. That's a gap. Boom! Done. There we go. That's another one done. This is really messy. Oh, and so boring. Oh, do you know what I should have done? No, that wouldn't have worked, would it? So I was just thinking, what if I'd have like put like a because I could mix this stuff up with like flow improver and squodge it down on the base beforehand, and then like this bit in, and just like pare it back loads. But like, yeah, I mean they look okay. They look all right, but it's just this is going to be so slow going because it's taking me. How long has it taken me? It's taken me like 2 or 3 minutes to do each one. Not good. All right. Oh, God's sakes. And I'm dropping them. Going well. Right. Yeah. So, army lists. Yeah, so what I've got so far for Old World is I've got all my old Slaves to Darkness, so I'm in the process of rebasing those at the moment. Those, I might do a hobby video on those at some point just to show you me my efforts getting those back on squares. I've only got the knights to do. I've done all my Chaos Warriors, so it's just my knights. I've got a handful of those left to do. I think knights are possibly going to be the meta in this edition because Swift Stride is fantastic. Anything with Swift Stride, I think, is really good. Yeah, anything with Swift Stride is really good. Because the extra, the extra charge distance and the extra flexibility it gives you is awesome. So I can see why dwarves have got as many like cool upgrades as they have, because they haven't got anything that can really deal with a cavalry meta. And certainly because the first few armies we've seen released are like Bretonia and Khemri, both of which are quite quick on the table. You can see like dwarves matching up against those really poorly. I mean, dwarves will be great against chaos as usual, which is probably why I hate playing against them so much, because I had so many games against dwarves where, they were just such a nightmare. I hated playing dwarves, like against them. Like it was my least favourite faction to play against because they're just so damn competent. Like they should. Dearie me. No, don't do that. Oh no. Yeah, they should like be my favourite army because again, pragmatist. I like stuff that works. So, like, dwarves are just so very competent. But again, don't bring your personal politics into Warhammer because my fantasy choices tend to be stuff that's really quick and interesting. Whereas I'm quite boring, which is makes me great as a dad, or that kind of father figure, like quite trustworthy sort of bloke, genuine, all that kind of stuff. But like steady, I think is the word, isn't it? Is what I kind of model my life around. I want to be a steady person that people can depend on. That's that's who I want to be. So after 20 odd years, I think I've kind of got there finally. But like, my family seems to like me, so that's and they don't have to. Just, I mean, we've all got family, right? You don't have to like your family. You have to try and get on with them, but like, because they are like the most invested people. Anyway, I'm talking politics again after saying I'm not political. It's weird and inconsistent of me, isn't it? Right, so Warhammer. Yeah, so I had a game at the weekend with against Ian's Bretonians, and Dave brought a little contingent of 500 points of Wood Elves to sort of ally in. It was a really close game, actually. And to be honest, it was really good to I mean, I wasn't being massively competitive because I didn't want to just wipe the floor with them, but like it was really good to like see the bits of the game that I thought were going to be really good. Like I had a look at demonology, and the buffing spells are like absolutely amazing. And I didn't cast them once because I never really got the opportunity to. I also took 2 units of Chaos Warriors, and I really didn't need to. I think actually what you're going to see in Chaos is 1 unit of Chaos Chosen and 1 unit of Chaos Chosen Knights. You might see some other Knights, because Knights are okay if you give them Corn Mark, because then that gives them, Frenzy, which is like +1 attack, which is pretty useful. So yeah, Knights, like I said. Oh, look, I've done one already. um, that was my tester. Yeah, so Knights are, like I said, Swift Stride is good, so you might see more Knights. I think you'll probably see quite a lot of Marauders on the table because they are cheap, and actually with flails they're reasonably nasty. So you're probably going to see quite a lot of Marauders. I'm so pissed off though that they made Marauders with shields. Marauders with flails so good because they'd made them rubbish in AOS. So I haven't got any models that are equipped with flails. So that's really annoyed me. What I'm likely to do actually is rebase with a lot of difficulty my Tzeentch mortal list. And the reason it's going to be a lot of difficulty is that I've based them onto glittery bases because it was for AOS. So I thought I'd do something that's like sort of pretty almost. And so they're on glitter bases. So that's going to be really painful. I might do that as a video as well. Again, if you'd like to see me swearing and coughing up glitter for an hour or so in the future, let me know. And your wish is my command. So the game went quite well. It went a bit differently to that which I expected. Like I said, I expected some certain spells to be like way better than they were. Movement spells are king, by the way. So if you're planning on like move. Oh, for God's sakes, I haven't done that one very well, have I? Idiot. So get your movement spells. They're really, really super important. They can win or lose you a game. One thing I did was in Demonology, there is a movement spell called Steed of Shadows, which gives a unit of friendly infantry a 12-inch fly move, which is just gross. So I didn't take it because I thought I'll probably cock up and make a stupid, obvious mistake with that. That is such a powerful spell that actually I'm not going to take it because this is supposed to be an introductory game. And either that's going to be game breaking one way or game breaking another. So what that's going to do is screw up this experience for these guys who've not played square bases, in a while, and it's gonna, I don't want to have a game where I've just got something that's amazing and just wins me the game. Like that just feels, that's a really unsatisfactory game, really, because it's not, we're not at a tournament, we're not trying to smash each other to bits, so don't. So I thought, I'm not going to take Sea of Shadows because I'll do something either amazing with it or I'll do something ridiculously stupid with it. And in either would be, a poor gaming experience for both of us. So I'm not going to do that. So that was all right, but it was really nice to meet up with Ian again. I've bumped into him in town over the years. He makes bows for a living, which is cool. So he bought a £140 bow for me to have a go at pulling, see if I could pull it. I did okay. I got it to about, oh, you can't see because my face isn't on the thing, but I got it to probably sort of halfway up my face, which apparently is very good. I mean, I don't know, but apparently that's quite good. So, oh my god, this is so painful and dull. Oh, I really like basing normally, but this is just so, because it's fiddly. The reason I like basing is that you can just slap stuff on and it looks all right. Like it's supposed to be the natural world, so you don't have a tidy proxy of a natural world, so you can just put this, because I'm filling in to cover up the transgressions of the past, as it were. So that I've got this Seraphon list. Yeah, so that was a good game. That was a good game. I really enjoyed it, so that's good. It would have been awful if it was awful, considering how much effort I've put into quite a lot of this already. But never mind. Why am I saying never mind? It was anyway. Yeah, so that's that. I'm hopefully going to have another game this weekend. Although, it's difficult because I've got a son. Yeah, I mean, my son takes up my weekends pretty much. My daughter used to, but she's pretty self-reliant nowadays. Whereas, actually, I need to stop recording in a bit because I need to take her to rugby. No. It is taxi of dad pretty much every day of the week, I'm afraid. Yeah. Oh, I might take some of these actually to do in the car. Car hammer. It is a thing. The dream is real. Oh god, this is so boring. I don't know why anybody would be watching this, apart from watching the descent into madness of Dan. Right, I'm gonna stop soon. I think I've done 12. I've done 12. That's enough for a small unit of Saurus. So, what does my Saurus list look like? What am I going to wipe it on? I haven't got anything to wipe it on. Absolute clown. Actually, I'll just let it dry because then I can just pick it off, can't I? Yeah. So my Seraphon lizardmen. God's sakes, my lizardman list is 3 units of 20 Saurus, 2 Bastillodons, a skink priest on a ancient Stegatron and Stegodon, sorry, and an old blood on a Carnosaur. So there's 3 big blocks of infantry. Saurus are pretty tough because they're toughness 4. They got 2 attacks each. If you give them all thrusting spears, they can all fight in multiple ranks. That's what 60 Saurus looks like, and PVA. So that's what. So that's my Seraphon list. Sorry, I'm just gonna sort this out so it's a bit better. I've got a tripod that's a selfie stick. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I've got 60 Saurus. So that's actually a pretty simple list. It'll catch some people out in that what the Bastillodon do is they have like a bound spell that does, I think it's 3d3 strength 5 AP2 hits. So they're really nasty. And it's better. They're better than like a cannon, despite being not much more expensive than one. But they're better than a cannon because they do impact hits. They have stomps. They're pretty good in combat, and they've got this cannon-like thing on top that can. I'd imagine will probably kill like 4 or 5 things a turn fairly reliably, which is better than a cannon because it'll miss and misfire and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I quite like the Bastillodon. The Carnosaur and Old Blood is there just to scare my opponent because, you know, Old Blood and Carnosaur, pretty nasty combo. And the Saurus are there just to kind of mop up and take up space and, yeah, just take up space and stop people from charging my monsters when I don't want them to. Yeah. The other thing I noticed from the game the other day actually was manoeuvring is quite difficult. That's yeah. So what else have I talked about Warhammer wise that I haven't finished? I haven't finished. I've kicked that thing again. Great content. I haven't finished talking about my my not Soul Blight. God's sakes, there's too many things going through my head. So my vampire count list is basically Neferata, 10 Blood Knights, I think, about 60 skeletons, some zombies and stuff. But that's and Coven Throne, so I quite like the model. So that's pretty cool as a list. Because what I want to do is get a sort of Tomb Queen Khalida inspired Tomb Kings list. So just as a bit of lore, Queen Khalida was around at the same time that Neferata turned into a vampire. So Neferata went off and found some elixir of life that Nagash made and drank it and became the first vampire. Subsequently, you know, what's the bloody name? Khalida found out and was investigating her. So Neferata called her out to a duel, and they fought to the death. And Khalida basically died, was turned into a vampire, but then fixed by the Asp goddess. So actually had divine intervention to make sure she just died, and then later comes back to life, and her flesh is reborn onto her skin in the form of ivory. So she's actually a real sort of naked ivory mannequin thing, and causes terror was her cool thing. So she was like a little character that you could put in a big block of skeletons and cause terror. The other thing she did is historically is when you took her into an army, like all of your archers got poisoned attacks, which was just insane. Or maybe it was just the unit that she was with got poisoned attacks. Anyway, I think there's a way of actually doing that with the new Tomb King. So I'm playing around with the theory crafting it, and I think I'm pretty happy with where I'm up to with it. There's a lot of archers. There's quite a few Ushabti bowmen, which I think are amazing. I think they're brilliant. You know, especially for like hunting monsters because they've got so basically they've got I think their bow is like 36 inches. It does multiple wounds 2, which is really good. It's got AP 2 or 3 or something. And the other thing is they are ballistic skill 4, so no negative modifiers because they've got essentially Tomb King arrows. So they're always the ballistic skill 3, sorry. So they're always hitting on 4s. So 3 of them, 1 or 2 are going to hit, 1 or 2 might go through. So you're doing reliably about 2 damage a turn against monsters with each unit. So that's, you know, and it could be up to 6. So that's really good. I think they're excellent for monster hunters. But yeah, so that's what I want to have like Khalida versus Neferata rematch sort of thing. I'm still theory crafting how to build Neferata in fantasy, because obviously she's an AOS thing. So I'll kick that thing again. She's an AOS thing, so you know, it's going to be difficult to kind of, like, I don't know whether to call the thing that the Mortarks ride. I don't know whether to call that like an abyssal terror or whether to call it a zombie dragon. I'm not sure. It seems a bit kind of in between. Ideally, I'd want something like a manticore, really, so that something that would, you know, be slightly better. I don't know. Well, that's the point, isn't it? I could take it anyway. Then I've got my ogres. Yeah, so I think Tomb Kings are probably going to be the first army that I'm actually going to buy this edition. Everything else I'm just rebasing at the moment. But anyway, it's about an hour into the video. I hope you've found that useful as a bit of a tutorial as to, you know, how to do rebasing. But, you know, as you've seen, we've done a bit of this and put some spludge on there. I've taken them all off the bases now, so they're all on square. We just need to sort of smush them all up like that, glue the chaps back on, and then we're done. And so it's taken me an hour to effectively do about 12. I found it mind-numbingly boring, and I'm glad I was recording, because it's given me something to keep my mind on rather than sitting there going, oh my god, this is so boring. So thanks for being my cathartic attempt to oh yeah, the tag on the wall there, just see, that's when I was a young impressionable idiot, that's what I used to sort of call myself when I was like trying to get a bit of street cred. Dazza. Don't call me Dazza. It's cringe like hell. But yeah, I just probably should have got rid of that before I. Oh, that's my tester wall, by the way, the house. So that's all. There you can see the colours that are in my house. Apart from the brown, I don't know what that was.